Biden-Harris administration has forced DEI initiatives into nearly every agency and program within the federal government. DEI initiatives destroy morale, decrease recruitment, and potentially violate federal law.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not in favor of the Dismantle Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Act, or what it maybe would more aptly be called the dismantling any semblance of support or opportunity for certain American acts. We know who those Americans are. If we're being honest here, this bill, which will wipe out every diversity, equity, and inclusion program in our federal agencies, plus those who contract with us, plus those who receive grant money, plus our schools, is nothing new. This is just the final piece of a decades-long obsession with targeting and dismantling anything that might give marginalized people a fair shot.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and let me tell you what pisses me off. Republicans are out here gutting programs designed to level the playing field because they don't want the game to be fair.
I support the Dismantle DEI Act. H.R. 8706 aims to repeal the federal DEI programs across the federal government.
Why do predominantly conservative white men believe that the success of a black person or the opportunity or access of a black person is an existential threat to them? DEI is not given any unfair advantage that society itself does not already confer on certain Americans. It merely exists to ensure that all other people, that women, minoritized folks, queer folks, disabled folks, have the same opportunities to succeed and thrive in our workforce and our schools as people who have not had those opportunities systematically and legally stripped from them.
They're going after diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, and trying to turn it into a bad word. Why? Because they're scared. Scared of fairness, scared of being held accountable, scared of losing their grip on power. And let's be real about something. DEI isn't about giving anyone special treatment. It's about fixing a system that's been broken for centuries, a system designed to leave whole groups of people behind. But here comes James Comer and his Republican buddies, spending our tax dollars to tear DEI apart. For what? These are the same people who swear the country's gone to hell. Trump's got his laundry list of how everything is worse since he left office. So why are they so focused on DEI? Why are they wasting time and money trying to dismantle something that's just about fairness and equality? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is it because they're racist? I don't know. But they sure seem to be doing exactly what racists would want them to do.
It's because you can then misuse words like oppression. There has been no oppression for the white man in this country. You tell me which white men were dragged out of their homes. You tell me which one of them got dragged all the way across an ocean and told that you are going to go and work. We are going to steal your wives. We are going to rape your wives. That didn't happen. That is oppression. We didn't ask to be here. We're not the same migrants that y'all constantly come up against. We didn't run away from home. We were stolen. So yeah, we are going to sit here and be offended when you want to sit here and act like, and don't let it escape you that it is white men on this side of the aisle telling us, people of color on this side of the aisle, that y'all are the ones being oppressed.
Summer Lee nailed it. She asked, why do conservative white men think the success of a black person, or even their chance at success, is some kind of threat to them? That's what this is all about. DEI doesn't give people an unfair boost. It just tries to make sure everyone has the same chance, but they act like it's the end of the world. And let's be honest here, DEI hasn't given anyone an unfair advantage, unless you count finally getting a fair shot as unfair. Society already confers advantages on certain groups. The playing field isn't level, and it hasn't been for a long time. DEI tries to fix that, but Republicans, they're scared. Scared because the world is changing, scared because they're being called out. Let's talk about what DEI actually is, because they've twisted it into something that it's not. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity is about recognizing and valuing all different backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives people bring to the table. That's it. Equity, that's about making sure resources and opportunities are handed out fairly, taking into account the barriers people face. It's not about giving one group more, it's about making sure everyone gets what they need in order to succeed. And inclusion, that's just making sure people feel like they belong. It's making sure people don't just get in the door, they get a seat at the table, and they aren't pushed out. But the GOP can't stand that. They want to take us back to a so-called good old days. You know, the days when people like them called all the shots and everyone else was left to fend for themselves.
The bill will lend legislative support to the incoming Trump administration's efforts to eradicate the Biden-Harris administration's entrenchment of leftist DEI policies in the executive branch.
Policies like affirmative action and diversity, equity, inclusion are the closest things we've had to the mythical bootstraps that some of my colleagues insist historically and currently harmed communities need to pick themselves up by. What DEI does not do is give some kind of magical pass to better jobs, like some of our colleagues are implying. That middle word, equity, does not mean more than or better than. It means treating people fairly and impartially. It means working to fix generational and systemic discrimination to the betterment of all of us in all of our institutions. But instead, Republicans are trying to bastardize the term DEI to be a slur.
This all started back in the 1960s when JFK signed Executive Order 10925. That's where the idea of affirmative action came from. It wasn't some radical idea. It was just about making sure people weren't being discriminated against because of their race, religion, or background. Then came the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This law made it illegal to discriminate in public spaces, schools, and workplaces. It even created the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC, to enforce the rules. Did they give the EEOC enough funding or staff to actually get the job done? Of course not, but it was progress. Fast forward to the 1980s, and here comes Ronald Reagan. Reagan hated fairness. He hated affirmative action. He hated anything that made the playing field a little more equal. So what did he do? He gutted the EEOC's funding, creating a backlog of discrimination cases that went nowhere. And who did he put in charge of the EEOC? Clarence Thomas. Yeah, that Clarence Thomas. Meanwhile, corporations started jumping on the diversity bandwagon, but not because they cared about fairness. Oh no, they saw dollar signs. They started selling the idea that diversity was good for business. Hire more diverse workers, they said, and you'll be more creative, more productive, more profitable. Yeah. Was that better than doing nothing? Sure it was, but it wasn't about making real change. It was about making money. And let's be clear, those corporate efforts were absolutely shallow. And now, here we are. The GOP isn't just trying to dismantle DEI, they're trying to erase it from existence. Look at Project 2025. They want to scrub words like diversity, equity, and even gender from federal regulations. They want to take us back to a time when fairness wasn't even on the table. Why? Because fairness threatens their power. This isn't about fairness or free speech. It's about control. It's about fear. The GOP has convinced their base that fairness is an attack, that giving someone else a chance means taking something away from them. It's the same old racial fear-mongering that they've been pushing for decades. Let me be clear about this. They want you angry. They want you distracted, because while you're busy fighting over crumbs, they're robbing you blind. Take a look at the bigger picture. DEI isn't about division. It's about making sure everyone has a shot. That's it. But they've turned it into some culture war nonsense because that's all they've got. So what do? First, educate yourself. Read about Project 2025. We've already given you the page numbers. There's no excuse not to dig into it. Second, support the people who are fighting back. Governors, mayors, local officials. These folks are on the front lines. And third, remember this. The fight for fairness isn't just about politics. It's about who we are as a nation. Are we going to move forward, or are we going to let these cowards drag us backwards? The choice is ours. And trust me, this fight is absolutely worth it. And that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.